Coaches, how are we doing? Okay, just letting everybody in here, just getting underway. So thank you first and foremost for taking the time this morning to take half an hour out of your day to spend with me and to discuss today what you saw in my emails, hopefully from last week, this whole dark secret that maybe many of us know that are in the golf industry. But today I just really want to share with you the journey that I've been on over this past couple of weeks. I think some of you saw that email about one of my good friends of mine who was a general manager at a club and truly one of the, I would say, probably the best head pro that I've worked for. And as far as a general manager, was absolutely outstanding. And if you read that email, it was just a complete shock to me when I heard that he was like, yeah, man, I'm out of the industry. I'm doing medical sales. And it was one of those blows where you sort of start to think about like, well, hold on, here's this guy who was completely dedicated, a great golfer, coached as well as being the director of golf, the general manager, was disciplined, worked out, was focused. And it was just a real shock to me when that came in. And we had a great conversation on the phone, but it just really stirred me up inside. And today, what I want to talk about is what that really convicted me to talk about today, what this secret is that the golf industry really doesn't tell us about, right? And it's this concept that the higher you go up in our industry, the less you actually get to do what you love to do. Every single one of us got into the golf industry, I believe, because we loved impacting people's lives. We loved playing the game of golf. We loved teaching the game of golf. We loved everything about it. We loved being at the golf course. We loved connecting with people. And it's just this mindset that like, this is why we got into the industry. This is why many of us became PGA members, or why we became LPGA members, or wherever you are in the world, why you join that association. And so it almost becomes this sort of joke in the industry. Oh, you're a golf pro, you don't play golf then. And it's, you're in the golf industry. Well, obviously you don't have weekends off. And the higher you go up that ladder, the further and further away you get away from what you actually got into this industry for, which is the people. Most of the general managers that I see, they're sitting behind their desk. They're in front of a laptop. They're in front of a computer looking at numbers and not out there doing what they do best, which is, communicating, connecting with the members. I see that golf professionals, the better you get, basically the worse it gets. And so I want you to start to take a look at this concept. And actually, Tony Chavez just hopped on the phone on this call right now. That's why Tony got out of the industry, because he was so disconnected. He's one of our RGX coaches, and he left the industry for 3 years. And over these past couple months, this has just been digging on me like really badly, because I just feel like there is such an amazing opportunity out there for us to go out and do what we love, follow our passion and impact people's lives. But the industry has completely flipped it. And it's due to several different reasons. I'm going to go into them today. But I want to make sure today you have a pen and paper, because I want to ask you some questions as we go through this and start to just look at this journey that you've been on. So the first question I'd have for every one of you, just to write down, because I think the problem tends to happen when things happen in our head, right? We have this concept, we have this problem, we start to try and solve it. But inevitably, we run into some beliefs that we say, well, that's just how the industry is, and that's just the way it is, and I do what I love, so, I should just, actually, I'm too busy. I need to go and do an inventory anyway. So when we're trying to look at this problem in our head, there's no way of actually, and actually there's Jason, who's just signing on from Canada, who these coaches are coming on just without me knowing, but who got out of the industry, that part of the industry, specifically for this reason, because we've stopped following our passion. And so what I want you to do is just write down, why did you get into the industry? If you could put it in just 1 or 2 words, just go ahead and write it down. And remember, today, this is for each of you, right? This is for you to remind yourself why you got into the industry, okay? Was it to do with teaching people? Was it for the passion of golf? Was it you just get to do what you love? We were all told if you do what you love, you'll never go to work a day in your life for the rest of your life. But I would say that if I then was to ask you, at what point on that ladder, as you moved up that ladder, did it become, you start to realize, oh my goodness, I'm not getting any time at home. I'm not playing golf anymore. I'm not doing the things that I love. So what was the order? What happened first? Did you stop playing golf? And Jason, I'm definitely going to pick on you because you got out of the industry. Because you swapped from being a head professional to being a golf coach for this reason. Was it not playing golf? Was it not seeing the family? Was it sitting behind a laptop? Jason, as you're driving, I'll let you unmute yourself very unsafely. I might be able to unmute you, Jason. Here you go. Now, there you go. Jason, what was the first thing that you lost in that you started to see many years ago as it started to deteriorate and move in a certain direction? What would you say that was?
I would say the thing that probably drove my change was the understanding that I was no longer, I was being marked upon my attendance, not my effectiveness. And it didn't matter how effective I was. If I wasn't in attendance, I was judged negatively as a head pro and director of golf.
And then what were you finding? So you're in attendance. Were you getting to play golf? Were you getting to communicate with the members? Where were you spending most of your time?
I was spending most of my time administratively. Now, my role did allow me to play golf kind of on a weekly basis. So it wasn't so much that I didn't get to play golf. It's just that my day-to-day efforts, I didn't find were especially meaningful. Okay. Just because I didn't have a great effect on the people around me because, yeah, I got to play golf with them. I got to hang around and do cool things with people, but I was being ineffective, or I wasn't being paid for what I was effective at. And I couldn't deal my time. I couldn't because Sorry, I'm driving.
Just breaking up there a little bit, but I think what Jason's saying at the end there was just this concept of I was just going to work, and if I wasn't there, then guess what? I wasn't. They weren't giving me a grade. I could do everything I possibly wanted, but I had to be there. And it was almost this mentality that in the industry is if you're not working a 60-hour work week, well, then what? You're just not committed. You're just not dedicated enough. And I'm not just saying this about head professionals or general managers. I'm saying this about teaching pros. I was on the phone with one of my great friends the other day, who's one of the top, biomechanics golf coaches in the world. And he's like, Will, 14-hour days. And we've created a system that works against us. We've created a system that the better you get, the more you have to work, the more time you have to put in, the less you get to play golf, the less you get to be with your family, the less that you get life balance. And it really is, it's a losing, I even wrote notes for today on kind of what it looks like. Is like, it's this trap that the higher up the ladder you go, the paycheck gets so much bigger that you can't say no. The students are so relying on you that you can't say no. And so you've got this money coming in, you maybe have healthcare, you've maybe got, retirement funds. So it's like, there's no way to break the chain. And if we were to look at it, if we were to do anything, it would be better to go and get a job when we first started at a young age and actually go and do something where you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're going to work this hard, and then go and play golf all weekend at a country club because you're not the head professional. And I mean, I smile and kind of joke about this, but this is what I'm seeing day in and day out of golf professionals who are struggling because they never really believed when they got into this industry that you really weren't going to live out your passion inside of it. And I think this really comes from this mindset, you can blame it all on me, which is, golf was, several hundred years old, started back, obviously Scotland and England. And it was this mindset of, there was this hierarchy that we are not peers to our members, that basically we are servants to them. And the thing here is that what I'm seeing now is that what we've got to do is we've empowered our students, we've empowered our members in the wrong way. We've empowered them to have power over us rather than for us to empower them. And what I want to ask you here is if you got in the industry because you passionately love golf and you love sharing, what is it that you started to lose out on? Okay, and where are you now? That's that next question. I want you to physically write this down. Where are you now? Okay, in terms of time-wise, how much are you committed to going to the golf course? How many days a week? How many hours? Okay, I want you to think about that. I want you to start to look at, now, again, some of the things that I hear is like, yeah, but Will, I get to do what I love. Do you really still love it? Do you still really love what you do? Or Do you love parts of what you do? But most of it has come down to standing on a driving range, teaching hour after hour, giving almost the same lesson, or trying to help people who then won't do the practice, who will come back for the same lesson over and over again. And I hear this, and I'm not being judgmental, and this is none of anyone's fault. It's just we've given power to the golfer rather than helping them to empower themselves. And so my challenge to each of you today is to say, what is stopping you? What is stopping you from finding a way out of this? So I want you to just go ahead and write down and start to think about it. What is stopping you? Now, for most of us, it's that fear of change, because you've got something going that's pretty good, right? We're also in a season of possible economic insecurity. We're also in a season of COVID. We're also, at this level of, probably most of us on this call are not 21, with many and many years to go ahead of us. So I want you to write down, what is the biggest thing stopping you from making change right now? Because once we can start to identify that, we can start to realize that there is a solution out there that is absolutely working for golf coaches, a solution that can truly help all of us, that being the club, that being you, and that being your player. And it really lies in the hands of your player. But the first thing that we've got to identify here is the mindset. The mindset that we are servants to our players, that we have to give them what they want. We have to give it to them when they want it. We have to repeat what we gave them, even though, we told them to practice. We can't step up and get them to be accountable, because that's out of our realm. What I want to challenge you to do, whether you're a head professional, a general manager, a director of instruction, a first assistant, whatever it may be, I want you to start to take this concept that when you go to work today, to whatever position it is that you are there to lead people. You are there to make sure that they are having fun playing this game. And to do that, there are three key things that we've got to start to understand. First and foremost, we have to understand that most people who are coming to work with us, right, to coming to play the game of golf or coming for a lesson, are struggling to understand why they're not playing good golf. They're getting on the golf course, they're not enjoying themselves, which means that they're one step away from leaving the game, which impacts their life, impacts the club's life. And if you've been hired to teach or be the head professional, it's our role to re-engage them in this game of golf. I think the second thing is starting to understand that most of them are completely lost on how they should get there. They come to us with sort of questions and almost, I would say, more like answers. Like, I need you to work on me, on my swing. I need you to work on my driver. I need you to stop, getting me to stop slicing it. And inevitably, if our mindset is not in the mindset of a leader, we say, oh, okay, yeah, great. It's $100 for an hour. Fantastic. Mr. Smith, let's go to the driving range. I want to challenge you to get vulnerable and realize that the first change has to be in your leadership style, in the way that you put across talking with your members. And the way to do this in a way that is not offensive, in a way that is not rude, in a way that's not going to get you to lose your job, is to always turn the question back on them. Always respond with a question, not with an answer. Because when someone says to me, look, it's really important, I need a lesson, I'm chipping terribly, I want a chipping lesson, very rarely do they say they want a chipping lesson. It's usually a driver lesson. I need a private lesson. Ask them why, what's happening? Usually what you'll find is they'll go straight into their pain point. They'll go straight into their emotion of like, well, here's what's going wrong for me. This is what it is. I'm embarrassed. I'm chipping it terribly. I'm blading it. I'm chunking it. I just need you to fix me. Well, tell me, what would you get? What would success look like? Well, you'd stop me from blading it. I wouldn't be so embarrassed on the golf course. I wouldn't be out there so tense. I wouldn't be out there so, just struggling. And you can see it in them, how much they well up with emotion. As you start to do this, what you're doing is you're transferring trust in your player. What you're doing is saying that they came to you thinking that, listen, give me what I need. And what you're doing is helping them to start to understand is they're not actually sure what they need, but we're starting to identify their problem. As we start to identify that problem, what happens is that transfer of trust comes over to you, because now you've got them to get honest and talk about what the problem is, the pain that they're feeling, the struggle that they're having, and you now to get to have the opportunity to actually give them a solution to it, which often isn't a 1 hour lesson. which often isn't a driver fix or a new driver. And so it puts us in that leadership mindset and that leadership position where we can now go ahead, and that next step is to clearly define an outcome for them. So many of us, what we're doing is why we stay in this position in the industry where we're stuck and we're not enjoying ourselves and we're selling time for money and we're working too many hours, is because we don't have a way out. We keep repeating the same thing of giving people what they want, rather than actually finding out what is the outcome that you're desiring. So the first thing is to identify the pain that they're in, identify the problem that they're having, and not just try and fix them. The second thing is define the outcome. What is it you're actually looking for? You see, so often what we do is we just rush through this process and we go straight to the T because we want to please that member. What I want you to start to look at, and you hear me talk about a lot, is forget about customer service. Think about customer satisfaction. A satisfied customer is someone that walks away going, I got what I came for. Customer service is, I appease that member by giving them what they want, even if it's not what they actually need. So what we've got to start to do here is understand that if I can draw out an outcome, Mr. Smith, what is it you want? If we were able to do this, if I was able to make that change, if I was to get that extra distance, get rid of the chipping yips, get rid of the getting you out of a bunker, what is it you'd have? Once they get a clearly defined, measurable outcome, something like, well, I'd consistently break 90 and I'd enjoy golf more, then you're in a position to start to offer them something and say, well, listen, we can do that. Here's a plan on how that would happen. You see how as we're going through this conversation, what we're doing one player at a time is we're moving ourselves out of the trap. The trap is we've got, like I said, this secret about the golf industry is that the better you get, the more you work, the less you see your family, the less you play the game that you love. And the way you work your way out of it is one student at a time. You don't go out there and market to everyone and say, you know, I'm completely changing, this is it, I'm done, and you shift. You go ahead and each student you meet with, you start to make that small incremental change inside of them. You change that position from you being the servant to you being their leader. From you giving them what they want to you giving them what they need. From them believing basically in themselves and that you're the fix to them believing in you, helping them to unlock their potential. Giving them the power, empowering them rather than them having power over you. Now, as you do this, we go ahead and we get that clear goal. We understand where they're at. And then the most important part is commitment and accountability. You see, what we tend to do in the industry and why our lives are so stuck is we say, oh, don't worry, you weren't able to come out today. No worries, I won't charge you. Which means you're at the course for an extra hour not getting paid. Someone gets 3 sessions through a program. Hey, I'm not getting it. I'd like my money back. We step down, we give them their money back, which means we need to work more hours. They show up 15 minutes late, and instead of finishing on the clock, customer service, remember, we teach 15 minutes extra, so we push everybody else for the rest of the day off. At the end of the day, they requested a few things, and instead of empowering them to write down notes themselves, I need to go at the end of the day and go and send that to them. So instead of just going home and having dinner, I'm now doing an hour and a half of notes or videos or whatever tool that you use. You see, what we're doing here is forcing ourselves into position to, again, it's this mentality of serving this member to a point where it affects my life rather than serving this a member so it affects their life in a positive way. So as we start to draw up accountability, as we start to draw up commitment, this is where it shifts to being able to call out your members and say, hey, listen, you got here on time today, but as always, I asked you to be here 15 minutes early to warm up. So when we get into our lesson, we have the most time. You know, I asked you to fill out a practice card. That's because you want to consistently get below 90. And this is 2 weeks in a row now that you haven't do it. Let's have a sit down for the first 15 minutes of this session. Yes, you're paying for, because we're going to start to understand that if you're not doing this, there's no way of me to be able to measure, which means that I can't coach you to your goal. And we've committed to a goal. We have a plan. We have an outcome. What you start to see is in this process, you start to change. You start to become that leader. And amazingly, what happens is this. You start to get actual followers. actual raving fans who are like, hey, I believe in this coach. I believe in Coach Karen. I show up early. I do my stuff. I know that she's going to hold me accountable. I know she's going to push me. And so I'm not going to break the rules. And the people that aren't really looking for that, guess what? You're not going to coach them anymore. You're not going to teach them anymore. And you're going to find that start to slip away. Now, this is where emotions shoot through the roof and say, but as a PGA member, which I am, I have to do this, this, and this. No. What we have to do is we have to ensure that we are giving our members the best opportunity to play great golf, to enjoy the game of golf, to stay at the club, to stay in the game and grow the game. And the way to do that is get them to play better golf, get them to be accountable so they're actually getting the results that they desire, and getting them connected with other like-minded people. If you've got people on your teams who are showing up, motivated, inspired to play, to get on the golf course, to compete against each other, that is how you build a thriving golf club. Look at every junior program. Junior programs that fail tend to be based on 1-hour lessons, 20 kids in a clinic, all different ages. There's no real community. You bring the same age kids, the same skill levels together, you create games, you create an environment, you have them compete against each other, and you do it consistently, and it's winning. Well, what's the difference between a student who's 10 years old and who's 60 years old? I mean, really, we make it too difficult for our adult golfers. We try and teach them one-on-one when they need to be taught in teams, when they need to be taught on the course, when they need to be taught how to score, not just swing the club. So what I want you to start to see is, as I just look here, is this win-win mentality, right? Is if I get the player to succeed and play better golf, my club is going to be happy because they're playing more golf, they're spending more money, and they're not leaving the club. And this happens over and over again. And what I find is, for me, that over this past month, what I've had is these sort of emotional swings of, I'll have days where Tony sends me a voice note saying, Will, I had my first student ever, best thing ever, oh my God, it's amazing. And then I get a call from Ben saying, I'm out of the golf industry. And I'm just like, oh, I'm just down, you know, just emotionally, I can't believe it. This is someone I really looked up to, but we lost a great one. Then the next day I'll get a call, you know, let's just say, I'm going to talk about Dan here in a minute, you know, but Jeff Hotchman, who just signed on, saying, hey, Will, I just sold out my program in the first 2 days. I had to open up 2 more programs. And he's a director of golf, and is having massive impact on his club because in his time off, he's getting to get on the course and play with these students. And so to me, what I found is it's just this journey that I am becoming more and more vocal now about what I believe. And what I believe is that every one of us should be going to work passionately, giving of ourselves in this way that we know we're impacting people's lives. But the industry has set it up where that just doesn't work that way. Now, we can sit here and stand on the sidelines and blame the industry and say there's no way out. Or we can make a decision that we understand that where we are today, working 50 hours a week, especially for those of you with short seasons, I got to cram it in, and we justify that. Look, I'm going to work for these 6 months, hour after hour, and then I'll have some time off during the winter or the summer, depending on which season you're in, you know, is that we've got to start to realize that, like, there's a better way to do this. There is a better way, and that's to make sure that we take that mindset, take that leadership mindset to our next player that walks through the door. It's not going to become super easy right away. Just like your students, you're going to have to practice this. But it's willing to get down on paper that I am here for a purpose. And what is that purpose? I want you to start to think about as you go out today and you start to work with students, as you start to talk to people at your club, what is your purpose? If it's to sell tee times, I think you're going to struggle. If it's to give 1-hour lessons, I think you're going to struggle. You have to have a meaning that when you get to the golf course, my purpose is to impact the lives of people that I get in contact with through the game of golf, to help them reach their potential, to help to see the potential that they have and help them get that out. Something along those lines is going to get you through those days, like I had with Ben this past week, where it's like, Will, my impact is to impact the lives of golf professionals so that they can have the life they desire, so they can make the money they deserve, so they can have the life balance that they want, and go through that process of really helping each of these coaches that I work with to get to that next level. So I want to show you here that this is, I'm going to share my screen really quickly right here and show you this. And this is Dan, who's in Arizona. And this is the kind of thing that makes my day, right? Dan's actually going to be presenting to our RGX coaches here in a few weeks. Dan called me back in March or April and stuck in the pro shop, not enjoying things and realizing he was at that point in his life of, am I going to go ahead and continue to be a head pro or am I going to transition to becoming a golf coach? And over those past few weeks, he went through this process of starting to identify his why. Clarify how he was going to become a coach. What type of leader was he going to be? What were his expectations on his players? How was he going to hold them accountable? What is it they exactly needed? What would he be known for? All of these key elements that so many of us miss out on. We kind of just go straight to let's just sell a package instead of how do I impact the life of the student who's in front of me? Because if I do that, they'll become a raving fan. If they become a raving fan, they're going to send their friends who are like-minded, and my business will grow. So if you see here, this is Dan's results from as of 2 weeks ago. He started up 11 groups, 4 people per group, playing lessons on the golf course. 44 people signed up. 35 people on a wait list, and largest paycheck ever. And it's things like this that put a smile on my face and go, okay, we're working in the right direction. We have a long way to go. Okay, the industry has been set for a long time on the service mindset that you have to give me what I want. But there is an absolute movement right now happening towards coaching, towards accountability, towards results, rather than the fixed mentality. And so it's things like this. And I love what Dan said. The hardest part was just doing it. I finally decided I wasn't going to be afraid anymore and just went for it. And talking with Dan, he's as I do, I've got 2 young kids. He has 2 young kids. And it's this idea of security. I've got my health insurance, my 401k with the company, and it's safe. But what I would ask you is, why do you have to change? What is it inside of you that makes you know inside that you have to change? And I want you to write that down. Whether you send it to me or not, I would love you to text it to me or email connect@rgxcoach.com. You can text me 916-742-7785. I'll put my phone number in right here. But for your own reasoning, I want you to go ahead and challenge yourself to get it down on paper and tell yourself why you have to change. Because I know Jason did. I know Tony did and is now back in the golf industry. I'm going to pick on Karen because Karen, I read your email the other day. Jay Cook fired over to me some notes from it. Karen, give us, if you're there, Karen, can you just give us some thoughts and feedback on the shift for you? Like what changed for you and where were you at to where you are now?
Hi, Will.
Hey, Karen.
Yeah, it was all the things that you just mentioned that I was going through, even though I was a coach, but also as a woman in the golf industry. And I talked to Dan early on before I signed up. Oh, right after I was getting ready to sign up, right before, sorry. And it was what I said. It was like I felt empowered. There was a shift within me that take the step, even though I kind of know, I knew what the information. It was like, okay, this is your time, Karen, do it. And ended up, just like Dan, I picked up the phone and started calling about 15 people. And now I've got, 26 women and 15 guys, and got an introduction to another club to start coaching at other clubs. It's like, okay, this can happen, And so it's the shift within you to be willing to be what you call being vulnerable, but going for it and having not a fixed mindset, but an infinite mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Karen, that's fantastic. It was so exciting. Again, waking up on a Monday morning and reading that, Karen, is a pretty cool thing. Hey, I got 16 people out on the golf course playing lessons. It's like, this movement is happening, everybody. It is happening. The PGA of America, obviously, we were now working with them for the past 18 months on getting this education out there and making change. And truly, if you're on a call today, Justin, Joel, Jim, you are on the leading edge of this. You are making change, right? You are making change. And the thing is that I would just tell you to keep digging deeper into your why. What is the pain points that you have to change? Think about it. We're going to ask this for our students. I'm asking it of you. And what I found is that many golf pros, it just takes time to get belief, to be able to be willing, because I think, and many of you have heard me say this before, I get frustrated sometimes, and I'm like, how is it that a golf professional will spend 10, 15, 20, or $25,000 on a piece of technology, right? And think that that's going to drive business to their, yes, it's going to help you become a better coach for sure. I'm sure that will happen. But how are people just going to pop out of the woodwork and do that? How does a golf course go ahead and say, yeah, you know what, I'll invest $25,000 in this piece of equipment because it's going to help, compared to, I'm going to invest in my golf professional who truly can impact the lives of my members at my club, who can help them play better golf, who, if that professional knew how to communicate, improve their communication, how to listen, how to understand what their actual why is and their purpose and get that across to people. Every great business owner knows the success lies in your people, not in your tools, not in your products. It's in your people. And so to me, it's this movement that's happening, but slowly but surely, people are gripping onto it. And when, Karen, we get your testimonial here soon saying all those numbers, bit by bit, more and more people will say, this is the way it's meant to be done. And then that $25,000 piece of equipment is even more helpful because now you know how to use it, but in the way of business, in terms of promoting how they can use that to yardage gap, how they can use that to work on driver optimization inside of their plan, which you're holding them accountable to get them to practice the right way. So I would just challenge every one of you this week as you go out to look at the next student that stands in front of you as the opportunity for you to make change in yourself. Karen, you said it exactly right. The change comes from internal, right? Zig Ziglar famously said, if you want to change the fruits, you have to change the roots. And those roots have been basically buried in this belief that if you want to be good in the golf industry, you've got to work 50 to 60 hours a week. You've got to work weekends. You've got to say yes to everybody. You've got to give them what they want. You've got to, if they don't show up, have good customer service to keep them coming back. And I'm telling you right here and right now, that is not how it works. That is not how personal trainers win. Personal trainers win by kicking your butt 5 times a week, stopping you drinking what you want to drink, stopping you eating what you want to eat, forcing you to eat stuff you don't want to eat. But when you lose 25 pounds and look fantastic and feel great, you rave about them. You rave about your trainer. So the mentality here is we've got to get into that leadership mindset, and we do it one student at a time. So I challenge you again, everyone today, I've got a minute over already, but to go out for your next student and make that happen. And go out there today, impact their lives, but most importantly, impact yours by writing down today, why is it that you have to make this change? Make sure that that's in your wallet. Make sure it's on your mirror. Make sure it's in your car dashboard. Make sure you can see it everywhere, because that's what's going to make the change over the long run, is that you see the change in you. I hope some of you will send that to me. You can either, like I said, text it to me or reach out, connect@rgx.coach. Make it an amazing week. And as I said, I look forward to seeing your responses. Thanks, everybody.